Welcome into another Player Spotlight. I'm joined today by the one and only Tyler Whitney, also known as Hurriwind, for those at home. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm excited about this one because obviously eUnited this year for you, first of all.
Yeah.
Secondly, I believe you're the captain.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I was talking to your team a little bit earlier, and like you're the one that had to put all the work in of getting the org together and the house and things.
Yeah, I did the heavy lifting this time around. I'll take the master bedroom in response, though.
I was going to bring that up first of all, of like, you got yourself a better home situation this year, because I know last year you kind of got stuck with probably the worst room of the house.
Yeah, I got kind of screwed last year. Didn't switch around as much as we were meant to as well. But this year kind of makes up for it, and hopefully we'll see.
Was that why like you almost took this leadership role to an extent? So you're like, I can get myself the best room. You know?
Yeah, a little bit of like a learning experience the first time around. Like, okay, I'll put in all that work, so I'm justified in never having to do that ever again in my life.
So this is more like less about Smite, more about you as a human, first of all. But I do want to start off with your biography of what you've been doing in Smite through the years.
Oh boy.
And, like, what the Wikipedia says about you and the fun facts. So it says here, Hurriwind lives in Westville, Ohio. That true?
Westerville.
Sorry, I just say Westerville. That's my bad.
Okay. If you didn't clarify, no one would have known.
No, I know. I just want to, like, because people will look at the bio and go, that's not what it says.
Okay.
Hurriwind played on Cognitive Gaming during Season 2, Spring and Summer. On August 13th, 2015, only days before the start of Season 2, he was released from Cognitive Gaming together with the rest of the lineup. Only a month later, on September 2015, he was picked up as a substitute for Cloud9.
That's right.
Okay. Your bio of information that I've got down here was technically you were on that Cloud9 roster as a substitute. Does that class you as a world champion? In theory, no?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure on that side. Trivia points about you here, and these are the most interesting ones. His name is a combination of words hurricane and whirlwind.
Yes, that is true.
You chose that?
Yeah.
Tell me, why?
That was actually a WoW character I had. It was a shaman I played. It didn't feel that creative when I was making it. And I also didn't think I'd be a professional player in this game. And unfortunately, now I'm branded.
You ever thought about changing
I really
your brand?
do not like the name, to be honest, at all.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you prefer to be called then? Do they just call you Hurry for short? Tyler?
Yeah, Hurry is fine. Like, I like simple names, you know what I mean? It's a little too wordy.
Trust me, I'm called Hinduman now, and that wasn't supposed to stick either, so I feel you on that one.
I'll give you Graham.
Thank you. Is known as the famous multi-role player, is the trivia point. Where do you think that came from? Or is that a real thing in your eyes? Yeah,
that is from forever ago. I kind of, back in ranked before I just only played mid or I lose, I used to play every role. Like in ranked, I would play like literally everything. And I would go into Barra's chat when he was like one of the biggest streamers, like a couple thousand viewers, however many he had, a few thousand viewers. And I would always be like really active in that chat. And I really wanted to be a sub for that team, just so I could get some like experience on a better team and see what people did. And so I kind of advertised myself like, I can play every role, by the way. Like, I'd
so
be
if you need a sub, yeah, okay, that makes some sense.
And yeah, it kind of was a little bit of a meme, I guess. In
is
a couple
mid, is mid your favorite role?
Yeah, mid is definitely my favorite role.
What is it about mid that you enjoy the most?
I just like the characters. I like the way you play a mage in general. I think that you have like the most consistent ability to have like big impact plays from mid.
Next point on the trivia is currently majoring in engineering, minoring in film at the Miami University of Ohio. Wait, Miami University of Ohio. Ohio and Miami, they're in two different states, right?
Okay, yeah. So it was around over 100 years before the Florida University. Okay. So we actually have the... Oh,
okay.
You know,
you're talking to an English dude as well that doesn't really like... It's confusing anyway to everybody.
Yeah, I never say I go to Miami University because everyone's like, oh, how's Florida? How's the weather? So...
Gotcha. More importantly, the engineering, is that true?
Yeah, I'm actually done.
Oh, cool.
And I do have a minor in film studies as well. But my major's in general engineering. And then my minor is in film, so that is true.
Was that always kind of like the goal for you to like go into that sort of industry? Obviously, because you were like committed to it. Gaming came in the way, right?
Yeah, I just kind of got most of the way through it, and you know, some things, some aren't. But it's such a big time commitment, especially with like Smite and everything. So I just decided to finish it. Not using it now though, but
okay. Are you going to potentially go back to that in the future? Is that what's the long term plan? Yeah.
Yeah, that totally depends. I mean, this is such a weird industry, right? Like it's growing. And I think there might be some opportunities in the industry outside of pro play whenever I decide to stop, whenever I decide to be washed up, hopefully on my own terms. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I'll go back to it. Maybe I won't. There's a big demand for those jobs. So
I'm going to leave the next trivia line till last, right? There's one more before. This one is, he is 178 meters tall, otherwise 5'10" tall. That true?
yeah, I mean,
I've not
it's mostly
measured
true.
you, so
yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
mostly
trust you.
true.
Okay.
It depends on who's measuring me.
Is there a reason that's on your trivia? Do you reckon?
Maybe he just wants to point out how like average I am as a human being.
Do you feel average as a human being?
In some ways.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best answer I'm going to give for
That's
this.
fair. Last thing on the trivia, which is the most interesting one here for me. Likes meatballs more than ravioli.
I have no idea what that is.
Do you like
actually-
meatballs more than ravioli?
I maybe very slightly. I'm kind of concerned actually who wrote that.
Right. Okay. Because
Maybe I should.
this is the thing about the wiki, right? You just
Yeah.
don't know what's true and what's not.
Someone
so.
just put that on there, I guess.
So career-wise, you've been around a long time.
Yeah.
How do you feel like Smite's been over the years to you, and like what was it? What really got you into gaming in the first place, or into Smite in the first place?
What got me into Smite? I think back in the day, I didn't really watch like a lot of YouTube or anything, but I watched the Creatures at one point for like a short time in my life, and they played Smite, and I always liked mythology. I played like Age of Mythology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I took some classes on it in high school. And so I just thought it looked like an interesting game. I started playing, and I've always been a competitive person. Found a team on Reddit, joined a team for like called On Cooldown for, I don't know, almost half a year, maybe a few months at least. We lost every tournament game we ever played, never won one. Then my team made fun of me because I was in bronze and silver in the old rank system, and they were all in gold plus. Then it went to season 1, or I guess like the first official rank season. And I was the 4th person in Masters out of the blue.
Okay. Who was the top 3? Do you remember?
Snoopy was the first, I think. I think Pecky's was one of the first people as well.
God, don't give him credit. Carry on. Damn.
He was abusing old Nuwa, so
Yeah.
just nix him from that list. I don't remember who else, but I know those are like the first couple.
Top 4.
Yeah, but I was like the 4th person in Masters, and Aurora scouted me actually for fat chunks.
Huh.
And so that just happened like in a matter of like 2 months, where I went from my team sucks and I'm just playing because it's fun to compete. And I'm
you're
losing,
in bronze and silver.
I'm losing against literally everybody.
Yeah.
And then I just put a bunch of time into ranked randomly when it came out, made Masters, and kind of went from there.
So what got you into gaming in the first place? Like, have you always been gaming since childhood? Like, what was the games you grew up with? What your favorites? Yeah?
Yeah, probably some of the same stuff everyone did. I had a PlayStation and a Nintendo 64. I played. You know, it's crazy. That actually kind of sounds old now. Like, but before that was like normal, but now like I'm actually getting up there, and
you start to feel it. It's 2020, right? Yeah. So like you just start to feel it a little bit more. But yeah, so
Super Smash.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot. I don't know, Mario Party, all that stuff with my friends.
What was the first game you remember playing? Like your first real one that like stuck home for you?
That's a great question. I actually think maybe it was like Spyro or something.
Yeah.
The thing is, I actually do not remember. I was very limited. I could only play games for like an hour or 2 maybe a day.
Okay.
And then I needed to go outside.
Was that like how your parents kind of like wanted to make sure you like weren't just inside on a game console all the time?
Yeah, especially like my mom is kind of like, I mean, back then I wouldn't say it's old fashioned. Maybe it's a little bit more old fashioned now. I still think it's good to like limit your children and things like that.
Sure.
But she thought my brain was rotting and I would develop no social skills if I played more than an hour a day. It was good for me, I think.
I was gonna say, do you think she's right?
It didn't feel good for me at the time.
Yeah.
But I did get out and made a lot of friends. I learned social skills and stuff, which is obviously all really important. So
Spoke about family a little bit there. Like, what's your home life like? You got mum, dad, brothers, sisters, anything like that?
yeah, I'm the oldest of 4.
4, okay.
I'm
The eldest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 4. My youngest brother is 10 years younger than me.
And you're right now how old?
24.
Okay.
2 brothers, 1 sister.
You have to think about this a bit longer than expected, but go on.
Yeah, my parents are divorced, and then my youngest 2 are half siblings as well. Just something to note. I don't consider them that. They're still my full siblings.
What was that?
I don't consider them half siblings. They're still my full siblings. That's how I think of it.
That's cool.
But yeah, no, I played baseball, football, basketball growing up. I ran cross cross country track in high school.
So it was all
I
like
was
competitive as well, like you were saying, right?
Always competing in pretty much everything I did. Like I kind of saw school kind of in a competitive way as well. I would always kind of like feel good about myself if I was doing better than other people.
Right.
You know, sounds kind of bad now that I put it that way, but I don't know. If you're competitive, I think you just kind of understand how that is.
Yeah, I get the point of view there. I think the fans at home will too.
As long as you're not arrogant or something, you know.
How do you family feel about the whole gaming thing? Because obviously you've been doing this years now, right? And like, there's been some money coming through the door to an extent from it.
Yeah.
But like, how obviously, like, if they were during your upbringing, they kind of limited your playtime. Like, what was the situation of like getting into competitive, and how do they feel about it?
Yeah, so this is actually some good insight, and I think some people might find this helpful as long as you take it in the right way. But when I was about halfway through my schooling, I used to be a straight A student. I was a really good student. I made it about halfway through school, and I had one semester where I just did really terrible. And this is after I had gone to Sweden, and I was really starting to like pick up and like spending time playing Smite.
Yeah.
And at the time, my dad was helping me pay for school.
That was Yun Chopping, right? When we went there?
Yeah.
Is that what we talking about? Okay.
Yeah. And he was not happy, but he also didn't know, which is probably a big reason why he was not happy. But I think it's hard. It was hard for them to imagine that it wasn't because of the gaming stuff that I was doing poorly, because I was always doing good before that. And maybe it was partly due to that. Maybe it wasn't. I like to think it wasn't that related. I think I was just kind of getting burnt on school anyway. But after that, I took the responsibility of paying for everything major in my life, you know, my schooling and living and everything like that. You know, I still have my parents there to help me, but they definitely didn't look on it in a good light, I guess, until later when I became more successful with it. I got my degree, you know, and now, you know, I'm responsible for everything in my life. You know, I'm completely independent.
How do those conversations go then? Like, you know, how does it sound like, Mom, Dad, I want to play games and they're going to potentially, you know, I'm going to do well and I might earn some money. Like,
yeah, this is what I would do for anyone who's feels like they're in a similar situation. I know there's probably a lot of people out there these days, and probably will continue to be more.
Sure.
And it will happen more often, is where people want to pursue something like this, you know,
something crazy,
professional gaming, you know, whatever happens to be, like, you know, content creation or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to have parents that don't really see it as something to do. You just have to realize that their point of view is not wrong necessarily. You know,
sure.
Maybe sometimes it could be a bit outdated, but they're just looking out for the best in you. And as long as they understand that you're going to take the responsibility for the opportunities that you're taking, I think most people will be supportive. But understand, like, have perspective on it, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I would say.
It's a good way of looking at it too. So for the most part, like, they understand now. Like, nowadays, they understand what you do.
Yeah, they're
and,
totally all about it now. They're totally all about it.
Well, because you finished education as well, right?
Yeah, so that was a big thing for them. You know, even though I'm not using it, like, they didn't want me to feel like, when I was finished, I was going to be a bit like stranded. Yeah. I don't think you necessarily are, especially these days. I think it comes with a lot of opportunities, especially when you're a professional gamer, like at a level where we're at. But yeah, I would say so.
It's definitely good to hear about that. When did you, I was going to say, the next couple of questions, like, when did you discover Smite? We kind of discussed that, like, as well. And also, like, when did you realize you were good? I guess it's when, you know, you hit Masters for that first time.
Yeah, and that was when Masters was the highest division as well. So yeah.
What's your favorite god all time? If you had to lock it in every day, what's your favorite god all time?
Persephone.
Really?
Yeah.
One of the newer ones?
Yeah.
Surprised by that.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of hard because it's a bit newer. If it wasn't Persephone, it'd be Kukulkan, because he's been around forever. And I don't know why. Like, I guess why is anyone's god their favorite god, right? But
that's true.
I just like Persephone because it's you can do so much, and I feel like it's kind of unique to be genuinely good at that character.
Because mechanically she's tricky, right?
Yeah, like, not to trash anyone else, but I'm going to trash a couple other people here. And when I say a couple other people, I mean everyone but Paul and I, because I don't think anyone plays that character to its potential, really. And
what would you reckon the reason is for that?
I don't know. I see a lot of people ask questions. I've actually had a couple people come to me and ask me, like, hey, can you make a guide or something? Because I don't get it. Like, my team is chasing kills and I'm just like, I'm planting my flowers and they're just running away and I don't know what to do. But from my perspective, I feel like it's pretty natural. Like, you shouldn't have to, like, if your team's chasing, that character can chase really well, in my opinion. So
really,
I just think it's kind of confusing to people when they see, like, the plants. They think, like, okay, I need to set up and fight, but I don't see it that way at all. I mean, you should be, it's just constant. You just need to be constantly thinking about like what you're doing. Like you should be planting plants, but you're not like trying to draw them into like a trap or something. She's a very dynamic, aggressive character. Honestly.
It seems like in a weird way refers to a StarCraft of micro versus macro, right? And like with Persephone, there's a little bit more micro to it.
For sure.
There's a reason.
Yeah, for sure. There's a little bit more micro to it, and you just genuinely have a lot of like options and outs, I think, and that's always fun to have in a character.
Okay. Moving on to the next bit then, what's your most memorable game you remember playing? It doesn't have to necessarily be pro play, it could be a casual or anything, but like what's the one that like sticks out to you the most, the first one you kind of think of?
It's kind of a game with some ups and downs. It was I think it was the second game versus Energy in Sweden in the finals.
That was when you're on Saw, right?
On Saw, yeah. When I was playing Scylla. Just because that was like where I think even though we lost that game, I think that's where like my confidence changed. Because especially that tournament, I had some rougher games. Like we won, but without like the better games in that tournament, I think I probably would have wrecked my own self-confidence. And playing against the players that I thought were like the gods, and really they were, and being able to like outplay them sometimes and feel like confidently at points in the game like we're a better team than these guys. Ultimately we weren't, but to even feel that way was just kind of a transformative moment for me. Because
Energy at the time, right? Like with the top dogs.
So yeah, I mean, arguably, maybe even definitively, like the strongest team for the time period that Smite's ever had. So
competing against them felt good. How do you feel like community perception of yourself? Like, what do you think the community feels about you, and do you think that like the right to think that way, or how do you think people think about you as an individual?
That is actually a really great question, I think, for me, because that's something that
you're definitely someone that like
with.
The community sees your social side, and you're outspoken to an extent. But like, do you reckon like that is you?
I think it's very much so not me, which is on me more than anybody else. But I think I come across as a little bit more jaded than I think I really am. I think when you get to know me, like I'll say my piece about things, but I think I actually am pretty fair with like how I analyze things. Like I might say like, okay, this is really stupid, or matchmaking is like, I don't know, like what they're thinking, and then people are like, oh, this guy, he doesn't care. He doesn't think about, what actually goes into this stuff. He only lives inside his own world.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think I'm not like that at all. I have my moments, but I don't think any more than any average person.
It comes across passionately, and then sometimes like because it's so passionate, it's so raw.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people may see it that way.
Yeah, I think I come across as bitter, like jaded, like I mentioned earlier. But I do like I was raised to always put myself in other people's shoes. And so sometimes you're just seeing my like gut reaction, and I'm not going back through to my tweet and like editing it. You know what I mean? Like after I send something to Ajax, I know he doesn't need me to say, I know this might be hard, or, this is complicated. Like I know he knows that, and I know that there's enough respect that he knows that I understand that as well. And I think the same goes for a lot of my interactions with people like at high res and around the Smite community. And I think people will not always see that, and they'll kind of make their first impression, their final impression of me.
Oh, that's fair to understand as well. I mean, when we look at like different players and things as well, and your career so far, like how do you feel like people's perception of your career has been? Because I think sometimes people get into the habit of like, well, Hurriwind's been in the season, but he's never really, hit that upper echelon. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you underestimated, overestimated a little bit?
I think I'm very underestimated. I think there's still like a lot of like EU players, especially, that like I can just tell, or like just hearing from other people, that they just still genuinely do not think I'm a good player, which I think is kind of crazy because I've played against those players a lot of times, and I think like it's like in scrims, a lot of games people don't see, and even in regular season games, especially like last year, I think I'm like consistently outperforming a lot of them. And I think the fact that I've been on like top half teams for like 3 or 4 years now, consistently every time, and play a leadership role in most of those teams.
That's a good point.
Should be pretty telling. I haven't, been on the top team. I've had times in and out of the top 2, but I haven't won. And that's what sticks in people's heads.
Is that what you think the perception is? Is that because you're not won?
And I think people, I'm not a world champion, Realistically, I've only had like one world's performance that people will remember, and last year we still got 3-0'd. in the semis, and those are the things that people remember. So I think that's just ultimately what it comes down to.
This is part of the reason I'm doing these, really, is to just get an insight into you as a person. Who's the person you enjoyed playing with the most over the years? Like, favorite person to team with?
That's a good question. There's a lot of people I've liked teaming with. I would say maybe Homie. You know, we kind of left on a bitter note. I did end up like pushing to replace him in the last season I played with him. But I played with him for such a long time. This is Homie Faye for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah. Because you guys were on a lot of teams together.
Yeah, Jungler I played together, and I played with him so much. I always said to him as well, like, I'd want to win with you more than anybody else because we just have such this long history together. We've been through the worst teams together,
right,
you know.
Yeah, and survived.
Yeah, exactly. We've been through the worst teams together, but we've also been on teams that are like tying for first and normal finishes, like in different splits. So
I know you mentioned like you didn't end on the best terms, right? Was that mainly down to like when it came down to the deal of the day, so to speak, or like it was competitive nature or something, or what?
It was tough. It was genuinely tough because I just think the way our team dynamic worked was not good for him. I kind of think you need a good balance of like aggressive players, smart players. You can have both. But you need people that are going to like reel people back at the same time. You can't have 5 people just, running in, not thinking about anything and succeeding on a consistent basis. And he was a passive player and Jigs was a passive player. And those are your 2 dynamic roles. And Homie was kind of having a little, some other issues in my opinion as well at the time. So ultimately, we got masked to replace him, which did work out, to be honest. We ultimately kind of like choked in our qualification games to Worlds, but we were doing really well in general, way better than we were doing before.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's always tricky with replacing friends and stuff too, but it's really funny that you bring him up, though. You know what I mean? Like, even though you ended up kicking off the team saying he was one of your favorite players, kind of gives you a little bit of a spark there. You mentioned, obviously, you tried to get on Barry's team or like as a sub there. Like, I was going to mention, who did you look up to in the scene? Was that the real superstars for you? Was there any other players that you really looked up to when you first started off?
Yeah, I think Andy was the player. I think Anister was the player that I thought was like the best player. I thought he was just, because when you're learning and you're a competitive player, a lot of times you compare yourself and you look at what a person's doing and you say, would I have done that? Or how would I have done that? And consistently when I watched him, I would think, well, I would have never thought to do that. And that was really good. And so I was just kind of in awe, I think, a lot of times watching him play, which is a big reason why I wanted to be a part of C9, because I wanted to see, like, how is he thinking? How is he telling people what he wants to do? Like, how is he getting across, like, these ideas? How is he coming up with them? And so I would say almost definitively, I think it was Anister, because he's a bit of a leader too.
Sure.
And I think that's kind of what I have wanted to be. Something I lost a little bit last year, but I think that's kind of where my role fits best. That's where I get to use my skills the most.
It makes a lot of sense. Do you still look up to any players at the moment? Like, do you have that sort of feeling because now you're part of the league so regularly, Or is it more like you nod at them with admiration, so to speak,
Yeah, that's interesting as well. I don't think in the same way, no, I don't look up into anyone. I don't find that I always agree with what anyone does, like, consistently, like I did with Anister when I was kind of learning back then. I think if I had to pick someone, I'd pick Mike. I think that the way that he thinks about the game in a different way is kind of admirable and interesting. And I think I often take a lot away from how he leads his team around the map.
Who is your favorite team to play with? Over all the years that you've played in all the different teams, including Fat Chunks and all the way back, like what was the favorite team that you just enjoyed? And it doesn't have to be for like competitiveness. It could just be for like you enjoying it, Like, what was the one that you were like, hey, that was good?
I would say Trifecta, probably. Trifecta or Fat Chunks.
Yeah. How come? Why those two?
Fat Chunks, probably because it was one of my first teams, and I was just kind of having a really genuinely fun time playing the game, always, every time. And I really liked playing with Aurora as well. I really enjoyed the feeling of like feeling super appreciated, because I know I was like a person picked up out of the blue, and Aurora never like doubted me. If he asked me something and I gave him an answer, he just trusted me. You know what I mean? And as like a new fresh player in a scene that wasn't that old at the time but felt old, that was it just felt good every day to show up and feel like I was a major contributor, especially after my previous experiences. And then I would say Trifecta, just because those were a lot of my good longtime friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what most people will say, you know, the team they played on with like their friends, or they have like a lot of good memories, like days where you could lose scrims,
Still be okay with it.
And not only be okay with it, but like just feel good, you know, like
Right.
feel like, okay, we learned a lot that day, or like, you know, we were messing around and we got to try some stuff, and I'm excited about the next day.
Cool. I mean, it's funny you touch on trust there as well, because like trust and chemistry is something that the fans don't really get to see too often, right? Like, are they as important behind the scenes as like people don't realize?
Yeah, I think it's honestly one of the most important things. You know, you see pros and you probably imagine like after some of the stuff you've seen them do, they probably have the most confidence in the world, but they're humans like anybody else. You know, it sounds kind of cheesy to say that, but you need a backbone as a human being in anything that you do, and the people that you play with, and in a game where you have 4 other teammates, you know, and a coach, so maybe like 5 in some cases, you need them. I mean, you can easily imagine that a team that has people that are supportive and people that like trust their teammates, is going to go a lot farther and improve a lot faster than a team who doesn't, right? Than a team who stops scrims and walks away and doesn't want to talk about anything, you know?
Yeah, that's true. What's a thing the average player generally who like just plays the day to day doesn't realize about Smite or the SPL? Like, what's a big standout for you that the average person just doesn't really get that plays the game?
I think it's just genuinely the difference in I wouldn't say skill, but the difference in like ability to play at a competitive level. I see a lot of players who kind of think pros are just got lucky and put on a pedestal. Like they recognize that they're good players, but at the same time, they see like Zapman play a ranked game and they see him go 0-10 and they say like, you know,
how's he in the pro league, right?
Yeah. I mean, not that they think he's like bad, but they're just like, you know, he's not that great.
Right.
But if you actually sat down with Zap and listened to him talk about the game and listened to him talk about the intricacies that he understands and his experience, I think you'd be really blown away if you actually got into a real deep conversation with him about the game. And I think understanding that just the sheer amount of time and effort and willpower a lot of pro players have put into the game, even though like on the surface, some of them might seem like they don't care as much or they might seem lazy and unappreciative. Ultimately, almost every single player I've talked to just has just an incredible amount of knowledge and expertise about this game. And that's something that I think if you don't appreciate it, you should take some time and try to.
Okay. So what other games are you playing at the moment? What do you do like in your downtime? Like, do you play any other games at the moment, chilling wise?
Yeah, I play over the past year. I'm playing like WoW Classic. I'm sure my last team would love to tell you about it.
What class?
I was playing Hunter, but I just main switched to Warrior.
Okay.
Which is the most broken class in Classics, just in case anyone.
Yeah, you got Feign Death on Hunter, so I'm not going to talk to you about
true.
that. I was a Rogue Bane, so yeah.
Sense the name as well.
Yeah, pretty much. It comes from that to an extent. Yeah. So just Warcraft then, or do you play any of anything else for fun and just casually?
Yeah, I'm just kind of I'll play whatever, honestly. Like if someone asks me to play something and it looks good, I'll just try it.
Does it matter about competitiveness of the game to you? Like, is it a certain drive that has to like make you want to play games?
Yeah, longevity wise, yeah. You know, I play like puzzle games and like adventure games and stuff. But if I'm gonna be playing it a lot, there's got to be some incentive competitively, I think.
Okay. And then, do you have any hobbies or interests outside of Smite?
Yes, I do.
Tell us. We want to know. The way you hesitated got me concerned now of like it's going to be something
they
crazy.
They just change a lot.
Oh, do they?
They change a lot, yeah. Like whether it's music, something a lot of people know about me is I was actually a bit of a dancer, which is kind of doesn't match me at all. You probably don't even know this.
No, I didn't know this either.
I was best dancer in my high school.
Was that proven with records, or is that like you just saying that? Like, where's the proof?
Yes, it was proven. It wasn't. It's not in the yearbook, but our yearbook was scuffed, and they didn't have like a lot of the things that they should have. So some students made their own.
But you should have been there for best dancer.
If there wasn't the yearbook, I would have won.
What kind of dancing?
It's like modern stuff, like pop and lock, and like shuffling to moonwalking to all
most
that
of the
kind
fans
stuff.
know this.
I mean, I really doubt that.
I mean, they know now.
I don't talk about it that much.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing. It doesn't really fit me or my personality, I don't think.
Are you going to be upset if the community starts asking you to do like little dance moves for them now?
Within reason, I don't mind.
So,
I think it's justified a little bit after bringing that up.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I think people are going to expect it in interviews and stuff now too. You know?
Even though, like, I think I'm pretty good at it. Like if I see a dance floor, like at Worlds, like people are dancing, and I'm just like, yeah.
Can we get a pop and lock before the rival game first weekend? Just a cheeky one for the fans.
Yeah, we'll see.
No one will get the reference other than who watched this. So then, you know.
True. Yeah, we'll see. If you remember, maybe
I'll try and remember. I've got a lot of these to do this week. What are your goals this year, though, Tyler? What's your aims this year? Because obviously, ultimate goal is always winning worlds, right? But like outside of trying to win the world championship or winning the world championship, what are your goals?
Yeah, so yeah, it is definitely a bit cliche to say win the world championship. Obviously, it's everyone's goal.
It's so tricky too, right? Because like only 5 players can do it every year.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I mean, even like you see every year, like SK won last year.
Yeah.
Like, it just kind of, it's not luck by any means, but it is kind of like who knows who it's going to be. But yeah, I would say just kind of like baby steps. Like I kind of want to make sure this year, like we're almost all moved in now. I just want to set up an environment and kind of like ground rules for how we're going to operate as a team. Not like in a strict way, but I just kind of want to culture an environment where everyone's like having fun, where people want to show up to scrims like day after day and feel like they can feel comfortable improving around everybody. And so I just want to play our like first SPL games, and I want to just learn from them in like a team way. Like I want to come away from them regardless. I feel confident that we'll win, but I want to come away from them, even if we do lose, feeling like good about it, I guess.
Yeah, kind of like the trifecta soul days that you're talking about there a little bit, I guess.
Yeah,
what you're saying about
I guess
like the camaraderie
part
and
of
stuff,
that feeling comes from that.
But what about personal goals? Like, that seems like team goals, and you're kind of bending me there. Like,
okay.
What about for you? Like, what's your personal goals?
My personal goals, it's kind of the same every year for me, but I just kind of want to do my best to cement myself as like a top mid laner. I think more and more people every year kind of feel that way about me. But I want it to be kind of more definitive. I think I want people to like see like, okay, this guy doesn't really have bad games, and when they do happen, they're few and far between.
How do you reckon you're going to go about doing that though? Like to prove that to people? You know, is it just keep playing the way you play, or? That's
a good question, because I don't think it's been working to the extent that I expect. And I don't think it's going to change. And the reason I think that is because I would have to majorly change how I play, and I think that's in a negative way. Like, honestly, I think players like Paul, he's a great player. He's very gifted mechanically, but I think ultimately he plays too much for himself. And that's maybe something that people say sometimes, and it's not necessarily true, but I think like in Paul's case and a couple other people's cases is absolutely true. I mean, like this is kind of turning into a little bit of a Paul Rose session, but he won Worlds, my God, like obviously amazing player, but they lose games and he has 0 deaths.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't even die trying to defend the Titan, you know what I mean? Like,
so is that more than
I'm not going to be that player.
So you're the time as a team mentality, so to speak. You feel like but then that comes at your personal like.
Yeah, I don't mind. Like if I have to pick early in the draft and open myself up to some counter picks that I don't want to play against, and it's ultimately going to lead to a worse game for me, like if I think it's better for our draft, I'm going to do that.
For good of the team.
If I'm going to put Harry or Scream, especially this year, in a position where they can feel like they can pick the absolute best thing possible, get their ideal pick.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to put them ahead of me. Like I feel like that's where they're most comfortable. And it's not that I can't be, but
sure. I think that's what you're identifying here, is that you're more of a team player than an individual to an extent. I think the fans at home will recognize that. Yeah.
In general, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been fun hanging out with you. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. Do you have any shout outs before I let you go today to any fans, family at home? Yeah, shout out to obviously my team. Look at the camera for this bit just so it looks better. Okay. That one there. This one? Yeah.
Okay. Shout out to my team, Young Snoopy, Harry and Scream, and Cardi as well, our coach. A shout out to Clerky and the rest of eUnited as an org. They've been fantastic, honestly, fantastic this year in setting us up. I could not be happier with how things have been going. Shout out to my friends who happen to be watching this. I'm sure they'll love telling me about it, as they always do. And my family, my mom, my dad, my brothers and sisters, they've all been extra supportive over the past year or two. That helps make the decision to keep playing easier for me. So thank you very much.
And thank you so much for coming in and doing this, honestly.
Yeah,
it's been great to have a little one-on-one with you. And you guys at home should get a few more of these in the future. We'll probably check in with Tyler a little bit later on this year if we can, or you'll catch up with some team check-ins. And we'll see how his run this year goes. We'll see you all later.